Well, NASA just released new images of 3I Atlas, and honestly, this just exposed probably the weirdest anomaly we've seen yet, because the images reveal a jet that is pointing in a direction that should not be physically possible for a natural comet. And I don't just mean the sunward jet we were seeing until now. So, in this video, I'll break down what these new images actually reveal and why Avi Loeb is saying this could be the proof we have been waiting for. On January 5th, 2026, 3I Atlas flew by Mars at about 29 million kilometers away. That sounds far, but in space terms, that's a pretty close shave. Now, orbiting around Mars is a NASA spacecraft called the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter. On board that spacecraft is a camera called HiRISE, and HiRISE is basically the most powerful spy camera we have ever sent to another planet. So, when 3I Atlas flew by, NASA turned this high-powered camera away from Mars and pointed it right at our mysterious visitor. We've been waiting for more than a month for these images to be processed and released, and now that they're here, they show us something we could not see from Earth. From Earth, we are looking at the object from one specific angle, but the camera around Mars was looking at it from a completely different angle, and this gave us a side view of the object that we couldn't get from here. This side view revealed that the weird jet we were seeing earlier isn't doing what we thought it was doing. For months, we've been looking at images showing what appears to be a jet pointing toward the sun. Back when Hubble took images in July, the object was still heading toward the sun from far away. At that point in its journey, the direction toward the sun and the direction of motion were almost the same thing, so when we saw the forward-pointing jet, we thought, okay, maybe it is some unusual solar heating effect. But at the time of these images, the direction toward the sun and the direction of travel were no longer the same. The HiRISE camera caught it from a totally different viewing angle, and now we can finally see what was really happening. The jet here is not pointing toward or away from the sun. It is pointing perpendicular to the sun, and the sunward jet is also there, extended ahead of the object in the direction it is traveling. Now, a jet is the stuff shooting out of the comet, and the tail is the leftover cloud of smoke that trails behind it. There are three forces that control comet tails and jets: solar heating, solar radiation pressure, and the solar wind. Notice what they all have in common. They all come from the sun. Solar heating happens when sunlight hits a comet and it heats up pockets of ice on the comet's surface. The ice turns directly into gas without melting. The gas shoots out and creates jets pointing back toward the light source. So if a comet's jet is pointing toward the sun, it is definitely caused by solar heating. Now, solar radiation pressure is different. Light from the sun actually pushes on the tiny dust particles released from the comet due to solar heating. So dust tails always point directly away from the sun, no matter which way the comet is moving. If a comet is traveling toward the sun, the tail trails behind it. If a comet is traveling away from the sun, the tail still points away from the sun. Either way, the tail is always in the anti-sun direction. Now, the solar wind is a stream of charged particles flowing out from the sun. It pushes gas away from the sun, just like radiation pressure pushes dust. So, gas tails also always point away from the sun. Every single one of these forces is sun-related. The sun is the dominant source of energy and momentum acting on comets. So, what happens if you have a jet pointing perpendicular to the sun? That means it is not being pushed by solar radiation pressure, it is not being blown by solar wind, and it cannot be caused by solar heating. There is no known natural mechanism to create this phenomenon. You might think, okay, maybe the jet is just slightly off angle, maybe it is 45 degrees from the sun, and we are making too big a deal out of this. But perpendicular means 90 degrees. It means the jet is pointing at a right angle to the direction of the sun. Now, this is not a small effect we are talking about. The jet extends for thousands of miles. This is a major structure that has been maintained across a huge distance in space. For it to stay collimated and pointed perpendicular to the sun while the comet is moving is just not something natural processes can do. But comets rotate as they travel through space. So what if the comet is rotating and a jet that started pointing at the sun got swung around to the side as the comet rotated? This does happen. We see it on some comets. But here is the problem. When rotation creates sideways jets, they create spiral patterns. The jet sweeps across the sky like water from a spinning sprinkler. You get a curved tail or a spiral structure. 3I Atlas is rotating with a period of about 16 hours. We know this from light curve analysis. So if a solar-heated jet was being swung sideways by rotation, we would see it curve and spiral. We would not see a straight collimated jet locked at 90 degrees to the sun extending this far. Even though it's a little blurry, the image shows a straight structure pointing perpendicular to the sun. For this to happen, the source of the jet would need to be continuously active and continuously oriented perpendicular to the sun even as the comet rotates. That requires either a very specific geometric configuration that somehow stays locked to the sun direction, which makes no sense, or as Avi Loeb suggests, it requires active control. We've studied thousands of comets. We have seen every kind of weird tail configuration you can imagine: curved tails, split tails, disconnection events where the tail breaks off, anti-tails that appear to point toward the sun due to viewing geometry. But we have never seen a jet that is confirmed to be perpendicular to the sun. Every time we thought we saw something like this, it turned out to be a viewing angle effect. When we looked from a different position or waited for the geometry to change, the jet would reveal itself to be either sun-facing or sun-trailing. The HiRISE image is special because Mars was in the perfect position to see the true three-dimensional geometry. The camera caught 3I Atlas from the side while the sun was in a totally different direction. There is no viewing angle trick here. The jet really is perpendicular. Shoemaker-Levy 9 broke apart and had complex tail structures, but they were all sun-oriented. Hale-Bopp had multiple jets from different active regions, but every single one was explainable by solar heating of rotating surface features. Oumuamua never showed any jet at all, which is part of why it was controversial. But 3I Atlas is doing something completely new. Avi Loeb thinks this is a technological object, and even though I disagree, I think NASA really should have talked about the anomalies that we can't explain instead of the basic stuff everyone already knows. If you watched to the end, let me know your theories about 3I Atlas and what you think about this newest anomaly revealed after the long silence from NASA. Also, please drop me a like and hype, and I wish you a blessed day.